How big would you dream if you knew you couldn't fail? If you're watching this video right now, it means you're looking for something. Strength, an answer, a reason to take a step you're afraid of taking. If you see my other videos, you know I don't tell you a fairy tale, I tell you the truth. And the truth is, only someone brave enough to fight against themselves has a chance at winning. If you're here for the first time, good. Watch this. And if at some point you see yourself in what I'm about to tell you, if you feel like this is your story, not mine, then go watch the others. Because this community is made of people who choose themselves. I remember the exact moment I decided to quit my job. I was sitting alone. I had just had the worst argument of the last few years. My eyes were dark. My hands were shaking. And something inside me, something I had been suppressing for a long time, finally broke free. That night, I chose myself. For the first time in a long time. But to understand that night, I need to take you back to 2019, to the beginning of everything. And I promise you, if you ever felt stuck in a life that isn't yours, this story is for you. 2019, permanent job, stable salary, falling at first in one of those signal groups that promise you get rich fast. Easy money, no effort. A complete idiot. I know, but stay with me. Because through those groups, I started meeting people all over Italy and then Europe. All through a chain of connections, I ended up in contact with a very strong trader. Someone who actually knew what he was doing. And for a reason I still don't fully understand, he decided to teach me. It was 2021 and something turned on inside me that I didn't know existed. They say 90% of traders fail. And I remember the exact moment I read that statistic. And instead of fear, I felt something strange, a kind of challenge. Like something in me said, okay, so why can't I be the 10%? Why not me? I became obsessed. Wake up at 5, study trading, go to work, come home at 6, study trading until midnight. Repeat every single day. The prop trading world exploded. I jumped in. First account, blown. I passed the challenge again. Funded, blown. Passed again. First payout, then 2, and then more. But something wasn't clicking. I had results, I had knowledge, I had hunger, but I still didn't feel ready to make the jump. And I couldn't understand why. The job gave me security, a fixed salary at the end of the month, food on the table, bills paid, I live alone. And that weight, that responsibility, kept me anchored to something I had already outgrown. In 2024, I found a mentor. Someone who helped me see clearly what was actually possible. And I started believing, really believing, that trading could give me what I was looking for. Freedom, real freedom. But at the same time, the work environment was getting darker. Every day, a little worse. And I started feeling in my body anxiety that wouldn't go away. Tension I carried home with me every evening. My body was sending me signals, clear ones, and I kept ignoring them. And I noticed something that scared me more than anything else. When work was bad, it came with me into the trading session. The anger, the frustration, it all showed up into the charts, in my decisions, in my mistakes. You cannot trade well when you are broken inside. That's not an opinion, that's just the truth. So I made a list. Pros and cons, stay as an employee or go full time as a trader. I went through everything. Every reason to stay, every reason to leave. And at the end, the only reason to stay was the fixed salary. One single thing. And then I read a sentence in a book that stopped me cold. If the problem is the money, that it's not a problem. Because you can always find a solution to money. But you cannot find a solution to a life you never lived. But I was still scared. And I want to be honest about this. Because I think a lot of people who want to make a change stop here at the fear. And they call it reason. They call it wisdom. But it's just a fear with a nicer name. And then I came across a talk by Mel Robbins, and she said something I had never heard anyone say out loud before. She said, as long as you think about making a big leap, your brain will never be ready. It will always find a reason to wait. But the moment you actually jump, you force your brain to find a solution. Because now, you're ready in it. You already told yourself, I can do this. I'm doing it. And Bob Proctor is working on identity, on becoming the person you want to be, before you feel ready, before you have proof. before anyone else believes it. The question stopped being, should I do it or not? It became, when? And then life decided for me, the way it sometimes does when you've been waiting too long. It was a particularly hard period, emotionally, at work. Everything hitting at the same time. And one day, an argument. It starts from almost nothing, but it carried with it an entire tsunami of things that had been building for months, maybe years. I was angry, really angry. The kind of angry where you feel it behind your eyes, dark, heavy. I had never felt that kind of rage before. And then something happened that I didn't expect. I sat down and I looked at the anger, and instead of letting it destroy me, I decided to use it. I took all that darkness and I pushed it forward. That night I said to myself, enough. I want to choose myself. I want to choose my future. No more waiting, no more excuses, no more fear, dressed up as wisdom. And then I remembered that question. The one I had heard somewhere weeks before. How big would you dream if you knew you couldn't fail? And for the first time, I answered it honestly. I took a piece of paper and I wrote, not goals, dreams. Everything I had ever wanted and never allowed myself to say out loud. No limits, no filters, all of it. I pinned those pages above my desk. They're still there. I can see them right now as I'm talking to you. And every morning when I sit down, they remind me of that night, of who I decided to become. That evening I went to my mom and I told her, tomorrow I'm quitting. It's time. She didn't tell me I was right. She didn't tell me I was wrong. She just looked at me and said, if you feel that is the moment, then jump. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. Pure relief. Because when someone who loves you doesn't judge you, doesn't tell you what to do, but just trusts you, that gives you a strength that nothing else can. That night I realized something. Life had been preparing for that moment for years. Every failure, every blown account, every bad day at work, every sleepless night. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The next day, I went to work and I announced, I explained my reasons. They offered me everything. More money, better conditions, everything. And I told them, this isn't about money. If I reached this point, it means that staying is the real risk. My body had already been telling me that for months. I just hadn't been listening. The day I handed in that resignation, I was reborn. That's not a metaphor. That's exactly what it felt like. Like something that had been compressed for years finally had space to breathe. So if you're sitting somewhere right now with a dream in your head that nobody else can see that, I want you to know something. Aim for the stars. Worst case, you land on the clouds.